for thought or food for concern. Because I swear, the food we grew up on, it just doesn't hit the same anymore. Same brands, same packaging, different feeling. And I know I can't be the only one thinking that. You ever bite into something you used to love and just pause like, yeah, something's off. Not bad, just different. Can't quite put your finger on it.
Bruh, now I know what my grandma was talking about back in the day when she said food don't taste the same. I just be eating just to stay alive.
Welcome to The Fine Print with Avery Morgan. And before anybody says it's just nostalgia, hold on.
Is it just me or chips don't hit how they used to hit? Like, if something's missing,
Because this isn't just memory playing tricks. Food didn't wake up one day and completely change overnight. It changed slowly, ingredient by ingredient, recipe by recipe, small adjustments over time, until one day people all started saying the same thing. Why doesn't this taste like it used to? Even before you taste it, food changed how it looks. Modern farming focuses on shelf life, appearance, and durability for shipping, not flavor. So what you get is food that looks perfect, but often tastes a little lighter than what we remember. And this just isn't about preference. There's actually research behind this. If you look at figure 4 in this study, it shows how the nutritional density of crops has declined over time. Meaning, fruits and vegetables today can look just as good, and sometimes even better, but contain fewer nutrients than they used to. And that matters, because the nutrients play a role in that flavor. So when crops are grown for size and appearance and shelf life instead of nutrient density, you can end up with food that looks perfect on the outside but doesn't have the same depth on the inside. So when people say, this doesn't taste like it used to, it might not just be nostalgia. It could actually be the result of gradual changes in how food is grown, long before it even gets processed. Now, this is one of the biggest quiet changes, the fat, because the fat carries the flavor. Food used to rely more on butter, lard, beef tallow, and animal fats. There's a running joke in my family that my great-grandmother put lard in everything, even spaghetti. And what's crazy is this isn't the first time fat has been manipulated. Back in the 1800s, states tried to make margarine look so unappetizing they dyed it pink. Not because it was dangerous, but because they didn't want people choosing it over butter. In the Supreme Court, Collins v. New Hampshire, that shut that down. And it said that you can't force food into an unnatural state just to control what people buy. And you fast forward today, and now people are having the opposite conversation.
Imagine how much propaganda it took to convince us that a synthetic butter substitute was healthier than the real thing. In the 1800s, margarine was invented as a cheap alternative to butter. And honestly, the dairy industry was terrified. They lobbied state governments to ban it, and some even passed laws requiring it to be dyed pink so no one would mistake it for butter. But then the narrative completely flipped. By the 1950s, a massive marketing push began, positioning margarine as the heart-healthy choice. Butter was suddenly the enemy. Here's where it gets interesting. The industrial process used to make that early margarine created trans fats, which we now know are far more damaging to our cardiovascular health. It was all a marketing play. The point is, we were sold a story that benefited corporations, not our health.
A lot of folks are going back to butter, back to the tallow and the more traditional fats, because they feel like the alternatives just don't hit the same. Not saying one is perfect, but it does make you wonder how much of what we're told to replace actually changed the experience of the food itself. Now, it's mostly vegetable oils, blends of processed seed oils. And when you change the fat, you change the entire taste structure. That's part of why fast food fries at places like McDonald's, they just don't hit the same anymore. Same food, just a different foundation. And when real flavor gets lost during processing, companies, they don't just accept it, they rebuild it.
If you notice this hot sauce started tasting different, you're not alone. Things started going downhill when Cholula was acquired by McCormick and Company for $800 million in 2020. The deal brought their share of the hot sauce market up to an estimated 30%. The ingredients before were mostly just peppers, spices, and vinegar. But now they made some sneaky changes, adding acetic acid and natural flavor while still having vinegar, but much lower on the ingredient list. This is a shocking change because they're replacing real fermented vinegar with acetic acid, which is naturally occurring in vinegar, but in this form, it's a synthetic acidic compound that is added.
Artificial flavors, seasoning systems, flavor enhancers, all of those things sometimes you can't even pronounce. That's when they come in. And sometimes that's what you're tasting. So it isn't purely from the food anymore. It's engineered back in. And most people never think about that part. They just think, why does this taste familiar but not quite right? Oh, and chocolate? Chocolate is one of the biggest complaints.
For the first time in human history, there is no peanut butter in peanut butter cups.
A member of the Reese family is accusing Hershey of hurting the Reese's brand by shifting to cheaper ingredients in many products.
One cup hits you with a petrochemical that can't legally be called peanut butter.
People say it tastes waxier, less rich, more processed. Even brands like Cadbury don't always taste identical everywhere. Same name, not always the same formula, because ingredients can shift over time for cost, sourcing, and production changes. And here's when things got even more talked about.
They're pure chocolate ingredients in all of its products. The company announcing it will swap out a chocolate compound coating and replace it with its classic milk and dark chocolate recipes. The change comes after criticism by a member of the Reese family who accused the company of cutting corners on ingredients. The shift will impact less than 3% of Reese's products and a sliver of Hershey's products.
A descendant of the Reese's family publicly claimed that some products tied to the Reese's name may have shifted from the original style recipe over time. The company behind it, Hershey, of course, they disagreed with parts of the claim, but they do acknowledge something important. Formulas can be adjusted over time for production, consistency, and sourcing. So if people debate the details, it's still true that something along the way has changed, even in soda.
Back when my taste buds didn't work, this was good. This used to be really good. Now it just tastes like sugar with fake orange. And then this orange Fanta used to be one of my favorite, but I have taste buds now, I'm older. Tastes like cough syrup with some kind of spice in it. What is this stuff? What are we drinking here? What are we drinking?
In the U.S., Coca-Cola switched from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup. It was subtle. People still noticed it. And that's why the glass bottle soda still gets talked about like it tastes different. Bread, another quiet change.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking, this is just a random thought before I get out this car. Is it just me? But is bread lasting longer these days?
It used to spoil quickly. Now it lasts much longer. That's because of preservative, emulsifiers, dough conditioners, shelf life engineering. So it can stay soft, but it doesn't taste like fresh bread used to. It's built for convenience, not peak flavor. Bread didn't go from simple to complicated overnight. It was already industrial. But over time, more was added for shelf life, texture, and consistency.
This just popped in my head. I have a question. Lovelies, I'm sorry. Do you remember when we get a fresh loaf of bread from the store and we'd make a sandwich and that bread would stick to your top of your mouth and you had, like that to get it off? What happened to that bread? I mean, I know chemicals and all that, but when did it stop? I don't remember going from this to it's not an issue. When did that happen?
And it doesn't stop there. Some ice cream today isn't even ice cream. It legally can't even be called ice cream. It's labeled frozen dairy dessert. Now why? because of the stabilizers, air content, fat replacements, formulation changes. So it still tastes sweet, but lighter, less dense. Less like what we remember. It doesn't even melt the same. And this is showing up everywhere, even in Girl Scout cookies. Depending on where you live, the same cookie can be made by different bakeries. That means slightly different ingredients, slightly different texture, slightly different taste. So a Thin Mint in one place might not taste like a Thin Mint somewhere else. And over time, ingredients and formulas can shift based on sourcing, production, and updates. So people think something's changed, but sometimes it's just the variations stacking up. And that's really the pattern. It's not one big change. It's 1,000 small ones. Ingredients swapped, fats replaced, flavor rebuilt, recipes adjusted, sourcing changed, variations added. Each one feels small alone, but together, it changes everything. So, when people say food for thought, should it be food for concern? I mean, maybe that's not wrong. It didn't all change at once. It changed slowly until one day we just noticed. Same names, same packaging, different inside. Thank you for listening. And if this made you think, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss what's really going on. Because food doesn't change all at once. It changes bite by bite, over time, until you start wondering what happened. The labels stay the same, but the taste doesn't. Of course, the headlines tell you what changed, but over here, we read the fine print.